Hi guys and welcome back. About a year ago I tried a topping NX7 portable headphone amplifier, which I raved about but also complained. I didn't like that it worked just a portable headphone amplifier, so I needed to use my own portable DACs, my own USB dongles for the best results, and that would fill my pocket space in no time. I literally begged Topping into making a portable DAC amp combo, and sure enough, a year later they came up with this bad boy right here, which is called Topping G5, which goes for 299 bucks. So let's check it out. In terms of looks, Topping took the best parts of NX7 and I do believe they crafted an even nicer unit altogether. For example, underneath it you can see a leathery texture which offers a better grip when used with a smartphone, plus it won't scratch your precious phone. There is also a glass window on top which reveals parts of the circuit board. You can see that ESS Sabre DAC chip. You can see several discrete components, and overall I like the coolness factor of having a glass on top and leathery texture below. Apart from that, everything is made out of metal, including its volume knob, and overall there is nothing I can complain about. Moving on to controls, we have a volume wheel which will power on the unit. There is a 3.5mm analog input, just in case you want to use it as a headphone amplifier. And we have two headphone jacks, a regular 3.5mm and a 4.4 Pentagon balanced jack. On its back you have two USB Type-C connections, one used for charging and the second one will engage its internal DAC section. It doesn't draw power when used as a DAC, so you can hook it up to your Android or iOS device in addition to your PC or laptop. You can see two tiny switches. One will change its gain from low, medium and high, and the second one chooses its input, so it's either USB, Bluetooth or 3.5mm analog input. As for tech inside, those nested feedback composite amplifier modules of NX7 made their way into G5, providing about 1.2 watts of power per channel in 32 ohms on both its headphone jacks, meaning that this one is not a fully balanced amplifier, but who really cares when you have so much power under that hood. They went with a 9068 desktop grade DAC chip, which usually can be found in a desktop component, so it draws a lot of power. There is a 4mA battery inside, and when used as a DAC amp combo, it will provide up to 9 hours of use via low gain and up to 6.5 hours via high gain. When used just a headphone amplifier, so with that 3.5mm input, so you can double those numbers because you'll be disabling its DAC section entirely. I can see a good deal of discrete components under that glass panel, so I see several diodes and resistors, which in theory should improve the fullness of the sound. There is also a Bluetooth receiver on board, which unlocked some of the nicest codecs as aptX HD, aptX Adaptive and LDAC, and that's pretty much everything you need to know about this one, so let's hit some eardrums. Sound-wise, combining a very resolving and clean-sounding DAC section with a noiseless NFC amplifier modules resulted in probably one of the cleanest sounding DAC amp combos that I tried so far. There is just one single unit that can compete with this one in terms of resolution, and that is FiiO Q7, which sounds very similar to this one, so very transparent. You can hear all those micro details, no problem. Everything else that I tried, Shining UA5, FiiO BTR7, BTR5, QDLX 5K, they cannot compete with something like this. This one is considerably clearer sounding. There are no colorations with this one. I do believe it's a very linear, very honest sounding unit. It's not boring sounding, it's not clinical sounding, so it has good linearity in a way. Everything plays at the same level, so be it sub-bass, bass, mid-range and treble, everything feels very defined, very in focus. I can easily focus on everything that is happening in my tracks, and that wouldn't be a big problem. I cannot call it full-bodied, warm, sweet sounding, but at the same time it's not clinical, it's not boring, it's not lean sounding. It's like I'm listening to the character of my headphones, so if those are warm, it will sound like that. If I'm listening to my Odyssey LCD4, then I get that full-bodied bass, I get that very dense mid-range, meaty mid-range, and I get a very serious roll-off in the upper treble. So it happens with all my headphones. It's like I'm listening to my headphones and not to this fellow right here. It's like this one is just disappearing and I'm listening to my headphones and nothing more, and to my music. That's basically it. The good part, it never lacks in terms of transients and dynamics, so this one is fast and impactful, and I would never call it as boring or lean sounding. As a brand, Topping is very much into measurements. In all their user manuals you can see very detailed measurements. That isn't a joke. Every single device has those measurements. While not every single measurement is important to me, the noise floor and dynamic range are very important, especially the noise floor when used with ultra-sensitive IEMs. Topping is trying to kill that noise for a while now, for a few years, with noise shaping techniques like nested feedback, and I do believe they are doing a great job with all their headphone amplifiers, and this one is no exception to that rule. So this one has 1.0 microvolts of noise on its low gain and 1.5 microvolts on mid gain. If this sounds like some gibberish nonsense, don't worry, I can understand that. In much simpler terms, it means that it will never provide you any kind of hisses, buzzes, nothing like that on mid gain or low gain on maximum volume. You will never hear any kind of noise with Music Compose, and that is a great thing because you can blast a hole in your eardrums, but you'll never hear noises coming from this one because this one is pretty much a noiseless sounding unit. When I moved to big-ass planar headphones, it was providing all the power, all the headroom. It had a very good control over headphone drivers. And when I was swapping from dynamic headphones with planar headphones, I felt that it was refusing to hit the brakes. It was refusing to lose control over headphone drivers, to lose the grip. When I went past Mesa Elite, Keneton Rockner, Ezetich Charybdis, Hi-Fi HE1000 SC, and I was arriving just at half of its power output, it was clear to me that it can provide a lot more power. When I moved to Odyssey LCD4, which by the way are the second hardest to drive headphones that I have in my collection, I was just touching that 2 o'clock position, so clearly it has a lot of power under that hood. When I moved to Hi-Fi Vara, it was clear to me that this one cannot provide the current to make them jumpy, lively, and impactful sounding. And from portable devices, I believe just Fire Q7 and M17 can make them good sounding. This one couldn't do that, but it worked with the rest of my headphones, and that is still a very good achievement, especially at this price point. As you can guess, dynamics and transients are very impressive with this one, and something that feels almost like a tradition among Topping-made amplifiers. If you tried any of the NFC amplifiers within portable or desktop, then this one sounds very familiar with a twist. Topping put plenty of discrete components on this one, and that's why it sounds a little fuller bodied, a little punchier. So it reminds me more about their A30 Pro, which was stronger a little bit on the bass, and it reminds me about the A90D compared to any other NFC-made amplifiers. In terms of speed and decay, it's really redundant talking about that because at this size and price, I don't believe you can get a faster sounding DAC amp combo than this. And since there is no distortion and there is no noise floor, you feel that the bass is slightly more powerful, it's slightly more punchier, it's electrifying with electronic music, that is for sure, and it's both nimble and punchy at the same time. It does Soundstage and Depth pretty well, but it won't challenge desktop components anytime soon. It wasn't sounding really inside my head, and it was not crushing my head with crowded music, but at the same time I didn't feel super relaxed with an out-of-head experience, so that it cannot provide. Just to give you a few examples, it was bigger sounding compared to USB dongles like Fire BTR7, like Shining UA5, but it was not as expansive and deep sounding like a Wound Flamingo or like a medium-sized tapping stack. If you can accept that compromise, that it offers you a medium-sized soundstage, then I still believe it offers a pretty decent layering and depth. When I was listening to RZH Charybdis, I still felt that huge sound of their big drivers, and when I was swapping those earpads on Mesa Elite, I still felt a better air intake. So clearly G5 is not limiting the stage in any way. It's a bit redundant talking about its resolving abilities, as when noise and distortion goes down, everything else goes up. And that's exactly how NFC amplifiers are working, that's how topping-made DACs are working, and that's exactly how G5 is sounding. When I swapped that Aoun Flamingo with G5, I felt that there is considerably more information on the table, not only with high-end headphones, but also with regular headphones. It was just clearer. Like I was no longer watching a full HD movie, but a 4K movie. Everything felt sharper, more focused in a way. There is simply more information coming forward, and there is so easy to latch on that information. You don't need to stress yourself too much. At first, it feels a little bit aggressive sounding compared to Aoun Flamingo, mostly because it always draws your attention to look at those micro details. I won't call it clinical sounding, it's more like honest, detailed, clean, resolving, but without becoming harsh sounding. You should skip this part where I'm talking about its frequency response, mostly because it's expanded, it covers our hearing in full, it's linear sounding, so please check out my conclusion. But if you want to know more, then you should know that its bass is of a higher quality, it's fast, it's clean, it's linear, there is a very good control in the bass, something that usually happens with bigger units. So even with planar headphones, it had a very good control over headphone drivers, so it's a very high quality type of bass. The mid-range, it's not warm, it's not inviting, it's not sweet sounding, but at the same time, it's not thin or lifeless sounding. It's more like neutral without any kind of color or saturation. Tube nerds will want a little bit more presence in the mid-range, but solid-state lovers will find it just right, so no complaints. Its treble is extending way past my hearing abilities, so it's very good in here, but very important, it's linear, so it's not trying to be sharp or, it's not adding any kind of glare or listening fatigue. Yes, it's linear, so it's not rolled off at all. You can hear all those shimmer and detail, but it will never appear as aggressive sounding. If you like your trebles clean and detailed, yet harsh-free, then this unit is definitely for you. In a nutshell, topping solved the biggest issues that I had with NX7. I no longer need to use a portable DAC or USB dongle because the G5 has it all. And by that I mean a resolving DAC section and a noiseless and distortionless amplifier section that could drive pretty much anything, including desktop headphones, pretty easily. It was noiseless with IEMs and it was quite dynamic with desktop headphones. The only complaint I can say about this one is a mediocre battery life via high gain. Apart from that, it's a flawless sounding unit if you care for linearity. Thanks for watching, everyone. What do you think about the G5, especially in terms of power output? Please let me know in the comment section below if it is overkill or just killer. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, and until that happens, here are 3 more videos which you might like.